Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Cooper. Welcome to the Sharpen Podcast, brought to you by Acumen, an exclusive community of CEOs and business owners to help you grow your top line, optimize your bottom line, and enrich your storyline. Today, we're going to dive into when nothing else works. And that is an amazing topic because we've all been like, I've tried everything and I have nothing else left to do. So, today, my guest is Lindsay Howerton, owner of How Consulting, a fractional CEO practice, and the CEO of Honey Hill, a rural real estate investment platform. She's been a friend of the show and has come alongside Acumen for as long as I've been here. And actually, now that I think about it, longer. Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So give us the 90-second elevator. What's How Consulting and Honey Hill, and what do you do?
Yeah, so How Consulting has been in existence for 9 years. A lot of people knew me before that at Original One Specialty Foods, which is actually where I met Acumen. The
Hmm,
owner was a participant, and I met Drew. I think I get to call myself an OG. That was 2011, 2012.
that's fair.
So
True.
yeah. But I've been out on my own for 9 years. Probably the best way to summarize me is I'm a Swiss Army knife. So I come in as a fractional COO and I fix the biggest problems and align the organization to be more profitable and just generally healthier. And Honey Hill is a venture we've had for 3 years, and we're doing a lot of good work in our hometown of Brookfield, Missouri. So that's my husband and and we've got, I think, north of 40 properties right now, and we're really excited to reinvest in the place we came from.
I want to get into that strategy later. But first, when nothing works, this is a fun topic because it there's so much in it. So let's start at the top and we'll kind of go down the funnel. Um, by the time someone gets to you and they say the words, "I've tried everything and I don't know what to do," what has happened and what have people tried to implement? How do they get to hear?
Well, we know the normal tools and the books and all the exciting things, and those should work. In fact, I've self-implemented a lot of those things and have been a fan of the books and all the things that we talk about. So,
Well,
in my own facility or my last full-time job, I did those. But usually there's a misalignment somewhere at the very top when it doesn't work. And having the experience in the last 9 years of, I think, probably over 30 industries and 60 organizations plus. It's fascinating when the owner is pounding their fists against the table saying, I did all the things and it's not what I thought it was going to be.
so why don't things work?
I find that purpose is lacking often.
Hmm.
So I see the KPIs. First questions I ask as a fractional COO are, do people know how to win? And is it measured? Just basic business 101. This isn't out of a book. This is business 101, right? Got to make sure that we know how to win, what is expected of me. Right people, right places. I always like that. Make sure that we've got the right team members in the right spots. And if I have all of that, there's a real problem because those things should work. And often I'm in a manufacturing, construction, industrial, I'm in a lot of those facilities, and I start to talk to the people on the floor, the people that do a lot of the work, and they say, we have a culture of go faster. And sometimes it's not about quality, it's about don't make mistakes or you'll get fired. And I would say that I can find that in a lot of different industries where I have fear in the organization or constant change in the organization or lack of direction. But they all sum up to, if we don't have purpose, my favorite Chiefs, they probably don't get a coach talk where they say, hey, thanks for clocking in today. Go do your time, do it fast, don't make mistakes, and we'll be back at the end of the day. It sounds a lot more like a rally cry of let's win the Super Bowl. And I find that sometimes when my players aren't doing what I expected them to do, there's no higher vision of the Super Bowl.
So that sounds like you say misalignment. It also has a feeling of culture in there, which is one of those. If you're not intentional, you can't create it, but it's also elusive because it's not definable. Um, what's your what's your take between those two things?
Well, I like messy problems. And so you just defined a messy problem. Fear, lack of trust, all the gaps where, I'm coming in and I have the tools, the resources, the right people, and it's still shaky. Again, it comes down to, do we trust the leader? Do we trust the organization? Do we trust where we're going? It's incredible that without trust comes fear. And all of those things are poison to the culture. And so it's hard to find. Sometimes it's well disguised. Sometimes people won't talk about it. And so it's a pretty sticky problem to fix. And it's prevalent more post-COVID than I've ever seen. We've got a lot of generations in one place. We have a happy hour, and some people are really excited. Some people want to network. Some people are grumbly. Why aren't we having bigger bonuses? It's a great example of what's happening in the culture of organizations right now. It's hard to get a lot of people aligned in the same direction.
So as a CEO, I hear only what I hear, and usually it's filtered and all sorts of other things. Um, what are you helping me do? How are you advising me uh, in that particular challenge?
Well, I feel that I get called a scalpel a lot, which is I serve the health of the organization, not the feelings of the owner or the team, although very considerate of that. It isn't hard to come in and have a lot of very transparent conversations with people once you build the rapport, in which it starts to become a glaring issue that we're not all running in the same direction, even though the tools are in place. So, having really frank conversations, in fact, uncomfortable conversations are sometimes my most favorite thing because uh, I have my own company where I make the same mistakes. I'm a great coach, but it's funny how you do your own mistakes in your own company,
That's right.
exactly like how you're trying to coach people not to do.
That's right.
So I have a lot of empathy and lack of judgment because, I can talk to a leader about don't do this and come home and do the exact same thing. I just don't have judgment when I have those conversations, but I get to the point quickly and I ensure that the health of the organization is the focus.
Okay. So where do you start, and what tools do you use to start building trust? There's humility in there somewhere. You gotta know you have a problem before you go fix it. Uh, where does this journey begin?
Well, when I evaluate if I'm going to work with a team or an owner, the first thing is the owner has to be willing to change. And if there's not a willingness, I will waste the organization's money and give false hope without actually making an impact. So I'm pretty particular about how to go into an organization. And it's sometimes hard to evaluate or to feel if a leadership team or an ownership team is willing to change. But personality has some things to do with it, experience, faith. There's a lot of meters in which you can feel if somebody is willing, but often my first question is, how good are you at being uncomfortable and are you willing to do hard changes if they're needed?
Come on, nothing else is working. Why wouldn't we all be motivated to change? Why would we want to continue to uh, be insane, which do the same thing over and over and think something's changing?
Well, again, I'll speak from my own perspective. When your self-worth is tied into the business because it's the brand and you are often intertwined with it, sometimes we think we're willing to change because we understand that it's important for the revenue, for the health, but then you get a little stuck because you're wound up in that your self-worth, how you see yourself, how you see your own value is impacted. And so this can trigger insecurity that makes you much more resistant It makes you want to, move things more. It makes you want to, out of fear for financials, do things that you wouldn't tell anybody else to do. And so as things don't do what you thought they were going to do and your worth is tied to it, it just gets really gray. And that's where fear starts.
So when someone leans into that and isn't open to change, what is the end result of this?
Things
It's not
never,
working.
well, I think the definition of insanity, right? You keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It is often that the team, sometimes I will come into an organization and the team will go, oh, another one. And this is on the first interview, and I'll go, what does that mean? Oh, another one. I had this recently where someone said, well, we bring in a consultant every 6 months, and we like what they say in the beginning, and then we don't actually want to change it. So we've just stopped listening because we know you won't last very long. That's fun to hear.
Yeah. So what does that tell you when you hear that? What's your diagnosis there?
uh, where's the exit hatch for me?
You're like, it's no bueno. This is not going in the right
Thank you
direction.
for the transparency.
Yeah.
I have saved myself a lot of heartache to care and to get in the weeds of making sure that we do the right thing and that we actually find where the core issue is and we're willing to fix it. And when you have somebody that wants shiny things but won't really listen to their people. I love being a consultant. I believe that they're needed because I use outside counsel. Acumen's a great place for me to go and ask questions and talk to people, and they give me advice and outside perspective. We all need it, but we also need to listen to our people. If we're using an outside consultant as the main way to fix something, make sure you're listening to your people. They know best. And a consultant often just extracts that information and gives it to the owner. And so, it's the complexity of being a consultant, but you should honor and think about your team as though it's your best client. One of my favorite things to say to an owner or a leadership team is treat your employees like they're your best customers.
Okay, so let's kind of go down the funnel. Do you have the blocking and tackling in place, the systems, the metrics, things like are you doing business 101? Two, you need a willing owner. There's some humility in there. There's a want or need to change. The pain usually is big enough that they're ready to change. You need a willing team. Is this just a revolving door of the next shiny thing, or is this an actual thing? Um, you said something in the beginning. You eventually you have to unify everybody under something, whatever their Super Bowl is. So how do you then unify everyone to head in the same direction?
Great question. So, manufacturing is one of my favorite examples of this. I go in and I talk to, let's say, a metal fab person, and the ownership team is talking about we make great products and they're high quality, but that's not really what I would call a rally cry. And so when I start to talk about where do these products go, and they'll tell me that they go to space and to semiconductors and to some of the nation's most important places that protect us, in addition to making our entire ecosystem work. I ask, have you talked about this with your team? Do they know that the weld that they do today, all day, actually protects the country? And the owner sort of looks at me blankly sometimes. What do you mean? I thought they know this. They know where they go. And so it's a really good discussion about how many lives do we change in this organization. I would, if I could fix every business, I would say let's put on the wall the mission and values and really live it. But let's also talk about what is the ripple effect of why we exist. Acumen. How many members do we have? How many employees do they have? What are the family members? What are the vendors? Any business I can take and say, what's the ripple? If it's, I'm shocked, even in small organizations, if it's less than 100,000. And so now I have a rally cry. How many people depend upon us for the product that we make? And I don't care what product it is. It can be any product. I can find purpose in it. And so giving people the reason why that we need this and why it's so important, it's amazing how people want to fight differently for the company and for the purpose.
True, true. Okay, so I'm CEO, I'm listening to this, and I'm like, wow, this feels like us. What's step one? How do you get started in this journey?
Well, if you've put all the things in place and it's not working, I'd probably tell you to look in the mirror first and make sure that you're not the problem. And I get in my own way with my own business. So again, I say this without judgment. Sometimes I have to look in the mirror and decide, I think I was the problem today. And if you can admit that and understand that sometimes you're the problem, then that's remarkable and you're ready for more help. If you deny that and blame all your people and talk about how nobody's accountable, and it sounds a lot like I've done everything for them and nobody's doing anything for me. You might have an unhealed trauma. Potentially, you need to go to therapy. You need to think about your worth and how it's tied in. Go get help, and then you're going to be ready for some help. But make sure you do self-reflection first, because this is a very humbling process. Having people come into my own business and give me advice doesn't feel good.
Mm.
And as a leadership team, sometimes it's really hard to face the mistakes that we're making or the challenges that we're facing and not winning at. It's a humble process. And if you don't come in palms up, you're going to have a really hard time.
Okay, so you're your own type of crazy because you've been coming alongside owners and CEOs and for a large part of your career.
Yep.
And now you have your own company. So what changed for you to start your own company?
Well, I come from a small town that was, at the time that I was raised there, it's 4,000 people. It was steeped in agriculture. And as we've drifted away from agriculture, there's manufacturing, really great manufacturing in my town, and the houses are literally decaying. Older generations are not there anymore. There wasn't someone to take over. Sometimes these houses have not been left to someone, and they're rotting. And it's not working. It comes to the theme of what we're talking about. When nothing else works, people don't have the capital to reinvest, and we're walking around our town noticing that it's in a steady decline in the investment. And it's at no fault to the community. It's just that we've switched. We've switched our purpose. We don't have the unifying thing. It's a lot like an organization. So, as a natural problem solver, as my husband and I were talking about this and see that the purpose has shifted, we were lucky enough to be able to invest, and we have great crews and great people, and we keep it all local. But we didn't want to allow a problem to persist that we saw a solution to. And we think we can build a model that could potentially be put in all rural communities. So we're excited to make this a platform. But comes back to the same thing, problem solution, right? It's a sticky problem that was hard to solve because you need a lot of really talented people to turn a house that most people would bulldoze.
I Real estate is always very interesting because there are usually the dabblers. I have a couple of properties. This kind of part of this retirement plan, and then there's what I would call institutional or corporate, real estate people that have a big strategy. You're in this fun middle spot. When did it go from initial real estate understanding to like, oh, we're gonna employ this specific strategy and go big?
Well, I would say it was a faith thing for me that, my parents have passed away and I inherited some houses which came from my grandparents. And so I saw that as a burden. It tied me to my hometown. I had property that now I have to manage, and we inherited 13 houses, so it wasn't like a little thing. And, I come from a background that was kind of rough. So, it didn't feel like a gift, even though I understood I was blessed to get it. In the last year and a half, as we've started to just understand more about our town and the people and see the need. And we get so many calls where people want good housing and they work in manufacturing. And something just clicked for me where I realized these are the people I like to help most. People in trades, people who are they're sacrificing their body. I work in manufacturing a lot and construction a lot. They need a safe house, and there aren't a lot of them. So we were crazy enough to start buying them and finding all the people, and we made a lot of mistakes, as do anybody that owns a company and starts out. It was a learning curve, but I think we bought 28 houses last year. So we really started to put the pedal on it because we understood, as we've started this ambassadorship, it's incredible to see our investment just make the town stand a little taller. And by the way, I got paid to learn how to do this quite a bit through fractional COO work. I've worked in property management, I worked in construction, I did a lot of procurement. I understood all the pieces because of where I had worked. So it was pretty cool that I could apply those to my own thing.
So you've gone from helping build organizations to leading your own. You've touched on some of these things. What have you noticed from coming alongside versus leading the ship?
Yeah, well, I complain about bratty CEOs, and sometimes I am one. So, I want to get frustrated at the CEO who is like, "Where are my metrics? Why don't I have my information? Where are we?" And then, yesterday I'm at my desk going, "Where are my metrics? Why can't I see? Where are we on this? What's the cost?" So, some of the things that I have quietly thought, man, it's so frustrating. I'm having the same conversation with the CEO. It's incredible and humbling that I'm doing some of the same things. And so I stop and go, okay, we got to talk about the spreadsheet again. I need to make sure that everybody's putting this in. We've got to get these live time because in construction, things can go south quickly. So it's been great for me to have more understanding, again, lack of judgment. I am bratty at times.
I have no idea what you're talking about. That never happens to me ever. I've
Sure
never been
do.
that way in my life. All right, bonus question. Well, Acumen's a plain glass organization. Everything we've talked about today is people, performance, profit, excellence. And yet there's lots of ways to make decisions. And so we have this stained glass heart, as we call it. So it's somewhere on your Jesus journey. And we're all trying to live the best that we can, live out our values in a relationship with him. So how does that work or manifest with you? You've said the F word a couple of times, Faith. How does that come out through you?
Well, if you're going to teach trust and purpose inside organizations as one of the keys to fix things when nothing else works, uh, higher level trust with faith is one of the key things that's sometimes missing. But being a business owner requires you to sit on a roller coaster. It's incredible when it's good, and it feels really scary when you crest the hill and you don't know what's coming next. And so when you have this inherent ability to be able to trust God and ride through it with a good people around you, fellowship of other people, in addition to just this faith piece, uh, I couldn't find a better purpose than that. It helps me to feel not afraid in the points where it's scary. And for my teams and the people that I lead, they need me to be a straight line. And so faith does that for me.
Hmm. Uh, how does that manifest inside the organization? A lot of times you say, "Hey, you want to talk about Jesus in a business context?" And you're like, "Hey, let's get weird." And so that could be weird, and yet you're not. So how does this hard-hitting, operationalizing, fact-finding KPI person how does that actually weave in?
I think it's called hit and hug. Is that a thing?
Now you have to explain.
I feel like I'm a mom manager. I'm a hit and hug, and that I'm the person that yells the loudest on the sidelines for you, but it's painful when I'm upset. But again, just helping people find that higher cause and make sure that in the moments of fear, because we all have them in organizations, no matter where you sit, to be able to let people have a safe place to talk is one of the best things that I could tell you. Again, coming back to why things don't work. If you don't have a business that's a safe place, you don't have a business. And so, because people are looking over their shoulder, and what better way to make people feel safe, take the judgment out, listen to them, work with them, make sure that you truly hear and see them, but offer up if there's an opportunity for higher purpose. And that can start as much as they need a house, they need a car. But as you build that rapport, it's incredible what happens to people because they just bloom.
Very true. So, um, it's interesting to hear the tension that you have, right? This COO-ness and seeing so many coming into situations that you do, and then also living it on this other side. It's fun to have that all in one conversation. Um, where can our listeners find out more about you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Lindsay Howerton. You can also email me if you have questions or need something from me. I am an AYLINDSAY at howkc.com.
So it'll be fun to watch how Brookfield changes and to see how that model can perhaps be dropped into other rural communities. And of course, we'll always see you around town next to CEOs doing your thing. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me, Dan. It's a pleasure.
If you're interested in becoming a member of Acumen, you can go to acumenimpact.com and click on the apply button. Or if you'd like to learn more, we have a ton of great content under the resources tab. Will be excellent, everybody.